Check one. Ch- check 1 2 1.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. If you could all just take your seats so that we can start today's proceedings.
Check.
check one, check one, check. Check one, check, check one.
Good morning and welcome to the second and final day of the Metta Convention 2014. The most venerable Sangha, all international and Sri Lankan speakers, distinguished guests, invitees and all participants. Before I commence today's session, once again let me please remind you to keep your mobile phones switched off during the entire convention today. First of all, to remind you, we have two very special guests here today with us. Venerable Kotapala Amarakitithero, who's the founder of the famous Pichamal Puja, which is running for its 25th consecutive year this time, which he has very kindly offered to us a half an hour of for the global Metta meditation on the 5th of July. Also, Venerable Kirama Vimal Jyoti, who's the founder of the Buddhist Cultural Center, who we are expecting today at some point, who is the founder of the Buddhist Cultural Center, which is doing some wonderful work throughout the country. Venerable Kirama Jyoti has been close friends of Sarvodaya and our sponsors and well-wishers of the Metta Convention. So we warmly welcome Venerable Kotapala Amarakitthi today, and we are so privileged to have you with us, Venerable. commence the second and final day of the second International Metta Convention, I would like to invite the founder of the Metta Convention, Venerable Mahinda Thero, and our distinguished speakers today, Venerable Vimala Thero, also Venerable Kotapala Amarakiti Thero, and also Dr. Vandana Shiva, Vinya Aryaratna, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, founder of Sarvodaya, Dr. A.T. Aryaratna, a representative from the Medset Sub-NDO team, from the local participants, a representative from the international participants, and finally, our volunteer national coordinator of the Metta Convention, Dr. Charika Malasinghe, to light the traditional oil lamp. Thank you, distinguished guests. We had a wonderful day yesterday, packed to the brim with so many inspiring, powerful, and stimulating stories, not just by the exemplary speakers who joined us from Sri Lanka as well as from around the world, but also by our own local brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers. A quick recap on yesterday's program. We started the day with a very educative session on the science of Metta by Dr. James Doty, a neurosurgeon from the Stanford University in the United States, and Mr. Sumana Ratnayaka, a senior lecturer and a research scholar on mindfulness. In the afternoon, we had two amazingly powerful speakers from our neighbor India speaking on Metta-centered social engagement. Dr. Kiran Bedi, a social activist and a former Indian police officer, and Dr. Sunita Krishnan, another social activist.
Venerable members of the Mahasangha, distinguished panelists, distinguished guests, brothers and sisters in Dhamma. Let us commence today's proceedings with a few minutes of meditation. If you like to adjust your body to an upright and relaxed position, feel your shoulder joints relax. Keep your head upright, just tuck in your chin a little. And you may choose to close or half close your eyes. Bring your attention within. Observe the calm, the quietness within. Remain in the state of calm and quietness for a few moments with clear sense of awareness. Whatever phenomena that arises, the sounds that you hear, feeling, sensation that arises, you have clear awareness of them. That your mind is not disturbed, not distracted. In this state of calm, quietness, we will commence with the practice of metta, of loving kindness, wishing ourselves to be well and happy. As you wish yourselves well and happy, feel a sense of well-being and keep a smile in your heart. Be free from anger, free from enmity, from hatred and grudges, free from sufferings, from fear, worries, anxieties, and just dwell in calm and peace. Just as you wish to be well and happy, calm and peaceful, you will now spread out loving kindness all around you. Feel the calm, the quietness within, radiating above, below, and all around you. This whole hall with your aura of calm and peace. And the good wish in your hearts that all who are present be well and happy. Going beyond the confines of this hall, the whole building, and all the surrounding areas, covering the whole premises of Sarvodaya Institute for Higher Learning. That all beings, all that dwells within this premises, known or unknown to us, seen or unseen, may they be well and happy. May they be free from harm, free from dangers. May they dwell in peace and harmony. Going beyond this premises to all the surroundings, all the neighborhood, to the whole village of Mantagama, and all the surroundings areas reaching out to the whole of Sri Lanka. Beyond this island of Sri Lanka, to all the neighboring countries, all the neighboring islands, covering the whole world, and all the realms of existence known or unknown to us, seen or unseen, that may all beings be well and happy. All beings be well and happy. Fill your hearts with pure love and compassion. and cherish good wish that all suffering beings be free from suffering. Those in sorrow be free from sorrow. Those in fear and dangers, may they be free from fear and danger. That may all beings be well and happy. All beings be well and happy. All beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. It's so good that all of you are able to maintain the spirit of metta, of loving kindness. This morning and yesterday, I inquired from different participants about their accommodation, about the food, and they all were pretty contented despite all the perspiration. Yeah. But please remember that you are sweating for a good cause. Yeah. Yeah. At the same time, you're clearing a lot of toxic from your body. Yeah. Especially today's morning session, will be about desire, overcoming desire. And that is very done. The fear, where is the sorrow? How to remove desire? Is the force, is the drive. Is the drive that pushes us to get what we want. Rises through our six sense bases, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. From nowhere else, it's from within this fathom-long body. When we see or hear or smell through six senses, we see, hear, smell, taste, feel, and we think. We stop at the act of seeing or hearing. After we have seen something, we give some values to what we have seen. And if we think we give some value as something that is pleasant, that's beautiful, Hari Lasanai, very beautiful, Hari Show, and all the fantastic qualities that you give, And if you think about it again and again, what happens? If I ask you to think of some food, some delicacy that you wish to eat again and again, soon you will salivate. You will find saliva coming out. That is how desire arises. And how did that desire arise? It actually arises through the proliferation of thoughts, our mind creating thoughts again and again, again and again. This is what the Buddha taught in the Samyutta Nikaya in Cetana Sutta. Buddha mentioned, if a person thinks and rethinks again and again, then that consciousness, the mind consciousness which is used to creating thoughts, will keep on generating thoughts and therefore generating karma. And that is how we come back again and again in this cycle of birth and death in samsaric cycle. Now, how do we stop this process of thinking and rethinking? It is not easy to stop because this has been going on from life to life. It is a habit pattern. We have allowed our mind to go wild. So that is why it is so important for us to train our mind. The path to the taming of the mind, the disciplining of the mind, lies within the Noble Eightfold Path. With the cultivation of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, through Sila, the restraint of our speech, our body action, and our livelihood, right livelihood, what happens? The tendencies of greed, hatred, delusion, we do not allow the tendencies of greed, hatred, delusion to manifest at the speech and at the body level, so that we do not transgress, we do not harm, we do not hurt ourselves, we do not hurt others. But simply by keeping ourselves quiet, we can plaster our mouth, we can tie ourselves and don't do anything with our body. Still, the tendencies of greed, hatred, delusion can still manifest at our mind level. That is where the need for the training of the mind, Samma Samadhi, through right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And even after you have meditated, even you are in retreat conditions, you feel the calm and quietness because the tendencies of greed, hatred, delusion do not arise. That's how you feel the calm and quietness. But when you get out of your meditation, when you come out of your retreat, you encounter with something that you do not like, that's unpleasant, you still get angry, you still get upset, desire still arises. And that is where you need to cultivate another level, that is to have right understanding and right thoughts. So it is through the Noble Eightfold Path that as we practice, little by little, we start to reduce, be able to focus our minds more and more. And as we are able to focus our minds more and more, we develop greater clarity of mind. And the clarity of mind enables us to see the true nature of ourselves, the true nature of our thoughts, the true nature of things, and the true nature, you see, the characteristics of our nature, dukkha, anatta. And it is when you begin to see these true characteristics that you'll be able to let go. Little by little, you start to let go. And when you let go of this, your mind will become more and more silent, more and more quiet. And as you silence your mind more and more, then you have now the controls. You can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can taste, but your mind don't go on creating thoughts. That is how to reduce and eventually overcome craving and attachments, which is the cause of suffering. Yeah. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, it is said that be still and know ye that I am God. This has been translated in the Gospel later on and says, be still and know ye that the kingdom of heaven lies within. This is what stillness, how to still our mind, is how important it is. Yeah. So today's session will talk, what I'm telling you is about desire and how it is possible to reduce and overcome desire. But it is through this desire, the craving, if not checked, then it manifests to greed, wanting more and more. And the cause of human problems today that you see, yesterday we heard about sex, what you call abuse, the sex trade, and we heard about various, all these things. You can trace it. What the world is today, more and more greed. Some people say greed is good. And the disparity between the haves and the have-nots. The rich are becoming richer, poor and becoming poorer. Therefore, all the crimes in the Chakravarti Siharana, the sutta, where it's mentioned, it is because of the disparity between the haves and have-nots that you find all sorts of crimes and all sorts of things that arises. So we will leave the speakers to talk about this morning. And in the afternoon will be about the healing of hearts, and then I will tell you the art of healing. Thank you.
Our sincere gratitude to Bhante Mahinda. Before we begin this morning's talks, I cordially invite once again for our wonderfully talented British concert musicians, Mr. Simon Marlowe and Thank Forgive us, Bante Mahinda. Before we begin the session today on conquering desire, if you can remember, during yesterday morning session, we had a bit of a technical hiccup when it came to Sarodaya's contribution to the science of Metta. We are happy to say that today we are able to share it with you. So let us have a look at the video presentation on Metta in the womb, part of a beautiful workshop Sarodaya conducts regularly in different parts of the country for pregnant mothers titled Holistic Approach to Motherhood. This video will show how Metta can transform even the unborn child and can lay the foundation to the beginning of molding a wholesome person right from inside the mother's womb.
Vishwaniketan Peace Center, in its quest for peace, stresses on three basic factors: achieving peace and tranquility within our own minds and perceiving the reality of life; healing society, understanding people, happenings, and adopting a dimension of loving kindness; communion with the environment, accepting and respecting the right to exist of other living beings and their links with the environment.
මෙසේ සංසුන් වූ සිතින් යුතුව අපට එදිනෙදා මුණ ගැහෙන චරිත දෙස, එදිනෙදා මුණ ගැහෙන සංසිද්ධීන් දෙස බලනකොට ඒවායේ යථා ස්වභාවය මනවින් අවබෝධ වෙන්නට පටන් ගන්නවා. මේ විවිධ විෂම සමාජයේ සමග අප්‍රමාණ කරුණා මෛත්‍රියකින් යුතුව සංගත් වන්නට අපට හැකිවන්නේ මේ සංසුන් සිත නිසාමයි. නිසල සිතින් යුක්තව සමාජය සුවපත් කිරීම විශ්වනිකේතන සාමන් වහනේ දෙවැනි අරමුණ වෙනවා. විශ්වනිකේතනයේ මගින් පවත්වාගෙන යනු ලබන
A holistic approach to motherhood, the most prominent among the peace programs launched by Vishwaniketan.
එනවා.
විද්‍යාව ඔප්පු කරලා තියෙන මේ කුස තුලින් දරුවත් එක්ක අම්මා එයාගේ හිත කය වචන එකතු කරාම
Modern science proves that communication between mother and the unborn baby could positively influence the development of the baby's mind. At 4 to 5 months of conception, baby can hear, smell and taste. At 5 or 6 months, baby even can open its eyes. Since the unborn baby has the ability to remember and learn, the 10 months in womb should be made productive. We educate young parents, making them aware of new research in this area, and over 100 groups benefited from our monthly programs, where we taught the mothers not to waste billions of neural cells, but use them positively.
මම දැනට වසර 5කට පමණ ප්‍රථම වෛද්‍ය උපාලි මාර්සිංහ මහතාගේ මව්පදවියට තම ප්‍රවේශයක් වැඩසටහනට මගේ පළවෙනි පුතා හම්බ වෙන්න ඉන්නදී සහභාගී වුණා. ඇත්තටම ඊටාත්ම ඒ අත්දැකීම පාවිච්චි කරලා මම මගේ දරුවව දැන් අවුරුදු
I attended Dr. Upali Marasinghe's program for pregnant mothers during my pregnancies. The knowledge and experience I gained helped me to nurture my babies. I see something special in my two sons, now 5 and 3 years. I myself am an environmentalist. I tried to create a love for nature in my babies using the sounds of birds, the winds, etc.
කියන කුරුල්ලන්ගේ නාද ඒ වගේම සුළඟේ ශබ්දය මේ හැම දෙයක්ම මම
දැන් අපේ පැරණි බෞද්ධ සාහිත්‍යයේ තියෙනවා සිද්ධාර්ථ කුමාරයා මේ මහාමායා දේවියගේ කුසට පිළිසිඳගත් අවස්ථාව.
Buddhist literature extols conception of a new life as an important event. The conception of Prince Siddhartha, the mother's dream of a young white elephant entering her body, denoting the strength and courage of the life within her, depicts the sense of pride and glory in the unborn baby in a mother's bosom.
රාජ්‍යයේ කියන්නේ මේ වීරවන්ත ධෛර්යවන්ත කුමරෙක් වෙනවා.
මේ දරුවා කියන ඒ තැනැත්තා කුස ඇතුලේ ගත කරන මාස 10 ඒ කාලය තුළ විශාල පුහුණු වීමේ කාලයක්. The 10 months an unborn baby spends in the womb is a period of training. Scientific evidence proves that biological and chemical changes in the mother's body during this period of pregnancy decidedly affect the mother. Chemicals secreted in the body of a mother of a cheerful disposition are passed on to the baby in the womb through the umbilical cord. And chemicals such as adrenaline secreted when the mother is sad leads to an increased fetal heartbeat and creates a fear within the unborn baby. Let me give an example. Unborn baby constantly exposed to violence within home becomes mentally confused person in later life. ප්‍රචණ්ඩත්වයේ රජ කරන මේ සමේ කුසුර යම් කිසි දරුවෙකුට
දරුවා කුසෙහි පිළිසිතගෙන මාස 4ක් විතර ගත වෙනකොට
In 4 months after conception, the unborn baby knows whether the parents are loving and affectionate or at conflict with each other. The baby is aware of feelings, and the baby's movements are an indication of its feelings and activated intelligence levels. Earlier, our knowledge of these facts came down traditionally, but now they are scientifically proved.
මමකට එන්නවා එහින් තල්ලු කරනවා මෙහින් තල්ලු කරනවා මේවා
පැහැදිලිවම දැන් විද්‍යාත්මක සාක්ෂි තියෙනවා මේ කලල අවස්ථාවේදී දරුවාට හැඟීම් දැනීම් තියෙනවා කියන එක.
Scientific evidence point to the fact that an unborn baby feels pain and hears sounds.
මේ දරුවාට මොකද ඇහෙන්නේවත් නැහැ. නමුත් දැන් මට හිතෙන්නේ සෑහෙන විද්‍යාත්මක සාක්ෂි තියෙනවා නොමේරු ඒ කලල අවස්ථාවේ වුණා.
අද ඒ කුස ඇතුලේ තියෙන දරුවා තාත්තගේ කටහඬට ගෙදර ඉන්න බලු පැටියාගේ කටහඬට the baby can identify sounds around him in the voice of the father, the bark of the domestic dog. The mother feels the baby's movements reacting to the father's voice on the telephone. Amazing, isn't it? Research proves that thought process can solidify and can
channeled into the brain cells as positive thoughts. Thus, a mother can pass on universal energy to unborn baby.
සිතුවිලි ධාරාවක් සිදු වෙන විදිහකින් තියෙනවා මේ විශ්ව ශක්තිය මේ දරුවා තුළට අපිට කාවද්දන්න පුළුවන් එක අවස්ථාවක් තමයි මේ අම්මට කරන්න පුළුවන් ලොකුම දේ.
මට කියන්න තියෙන්නේ විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ දරුවන්ට
The fathers should not think only mothers are responsible for all this activity. They have to treat their wives with genuine love and affection. If you want your baby to grow up into an intelligent, useful, and caring individual, both parents must be calm and controlled, and caring and affectionate towards each other.
ඉරිඳගේ හිත මතු පිටින් විතරයි යහපතක් වෙන්නේ. ඒ කරුණාව දයාව දෙන්න.
ඒ වෙනකොට අපිට දරුවගේ මුණ හිටන් අපිට දැක ගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා හම් වෙලා තිබුණ නැතත්.
I was told about this program, a holistic approach to motherhood, but I was in the US throughout my pregnancy. My parents and siblings sent me CDs and literature regarding this program. All 9 months I read them and listened to Pirits chanting daily. About a week before I bonded with my baby through the scan, which was done in the 36th week. I had no fear of labor pains.
Hi, doctor. Good morning. Do you have a comparative study to like differentiate, and like observe the behavior of the children who have gone through this program compared to those children who did not go through this program? Observe their behavior, like how angry or how happy are they?
We went through a study. We observed initially we had about 400 couples investigated, and so little observed all the areas, the interaction. This is only just a little bit, and we found that the positive energies that went to the families, even the attitudinal changes were observed, the changes in the family life, and even the economic situation has grown up with the whole program. It's a growth of the whole nation from the beginning. It's a loving kindness started from the beginning. It's an enchanted life actually. So we are going on, and people are coming, they're asking. We have about 20,000 people involved. So they come because they know the benefit that they're getting. So we are doing in a smaller way that people are asking. Every month we have getting people. So that's an indication that this is beneficial, right? We never advertise, but people are coming, right? Thank you.
Okay. So with that reminder on the science of metta, let me invite Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith to have a 10-minute reflection on yesterday's session before we ease into today's program.
Good morning. I want you to look around the room for a moment and see who's swimming with you in this sweet ocean of metta. And as you're looking at the beings around you, just take a breath and just release your awareness of metta and loving kindness for every being that's right here in the room today. And as we kind of recap a little bit about what happened yesterday, first of all, we want to thank Brother Mahinda for the wonderful words this morning. We want to thank ATR Ratmi and the Savodia movement for bringing us all together in this consciousness of ever-expanding good. As we think about yesterday for a bit, and we think about the first two gentlemen who were here, and they began to speak about the science of metta, we couldn't help but think about the fact that being here, meditating, being here, being still, that we were creating a field that is as real as a field of gravity, as real as a magnetic field, both fields you can't see, but they affect you nevertheless. And so us coming together, opening ourselves up to the consciousness of compassion, the consciousness of unconditional love, the consciousness of peace, which is the dynamic of harmonizing good, the consciousness of metta, we're co-creating a field that is affecting us right now. And as we heard the two gentlemen speak, we became increasingly aware that every thought is not created equal. The thought that emerges from a sense of separation, fear, doubt, worry, clutching, anxiety, is not as powerful as a thought form that's emerging from a field of unity, a field of compassion, and a field of joy. So our field that we're co-creating here, though the number may seem to be small, it's way more powerful than thousands of people that are emitting thought forms from a sense of separation. So that a small group of people that are concentrating and contemplating metta are way more powerful than hundreds of people and that are operating from a sense of separation from their real nature and their real being. So us coming together here is already making a difference in our lives and in the lives of individuals that we will touch. We became aware that we are at the apex, human beings are at the apex of one form of evolution and at the beginning of another form of evolution. The apex of our evolution is that we have the capacity to think independent of circumstances. Whatever circumstances are going on in your life, you can begin now to think independent of those circumstances and begin to make yourself available through spiritual practice to insight, wisdom, guidance, and direction, not being pulled down by circumstances, but being lifted by insight as you think independent of a circumstance. We're at the beginning of another evolution, which is a revolution in consciousness, which allows us to take these spiritual practices and begin to actually activate and radiate and evolve into the consciousness of compassion and love, regardless of our background, regardless of our previous experience, regardless of our past. We can move into levels of practices that allow us to be representations of a field of love and of beauty and intelligence. We learn through their discourse that we do not see because we have eyes. We have eyes because we see. We do not hear because we have ears. We have ears because we hear. In other words, consciousness precedes form. We are awareness. And because we are awareness, we, in this dimension, developed eyes, and we develop ears and the senses, the sensorium, as was described this morning. But that first and foremost, we are consciousness. We're expanding our awareness through these spiritual practices. So the first session could be titled, Don't Just Do Something, Sit There. Don't just do something, sit and have an awareness that you are a consciousness itself, you are awareness itself. Think independent of circumstances and allow for the meta awareness, the consciousness of compassion, to be the activity of your awareness. And then as we moved into the second half, it was the engagement of Metta in the world. And so we became aware that we could apply the consciousness of compassion. We became aware of our sisters from India who engaged Metta and redeemed our sisters who were sold into sex trafficking. We became aware that through the consciousness of Metta and compassion and love, we could redeem our brothers and sisters who were incarcerated, even the guards who were guarding them through the consciousness of Vipassana meditation. We became aware that we could redeem those who were labeled as orphans, child soldiers, drug addicts, that as we engage the world with the consciousness of compassion and love, that which seems lost can be found again. That which seems cut adrift and separated from the whole can be brought back to center again. And so the second half could be called, Don't Just Sit There, Do Something. And so with the combination of don't just do something, sit there, and don't just sit there, do something, we have the balance between bringing heaven to earth. We have the balance of expanding our awareness of Metta with the awareness that love and peace and joy and harmony, these transcended eternal qualities are everywhere except where they're being suppressed by myopic points of view or limited perception. And so our inner work, our gathering in the Sangha of high-minded people expands our awareness so that we're not suppressing compassion. We're not suppressing beauty and love, generosity of the Spirit. It's here already, but it needs a vehicle to express through. And we are the arms and legs. We're the instruments, the mouthpieces. We were told yesterday to not keep silent, about injustice, but to engage with our meta consciousness, the places where we need to speak up. So in other words, we're inviting ourselves to be aware that every being has a gift. Every being has a right and a reason to be here on this planet. And with all of the seeming negativity and the systemic issues and the crisis that our planet is in, we're in peril. We have to find our place, according to our gifted area, to engage the world with an expanded awareness of compassion, the understanding of the seeming lack of understanding. Don't just do something, sit there. Have a vision. Don't just sit there, do something. Action with a vision. And so I leave you with this story. And there was a small town in which there was this laundry man. This gentleman did the laundry of the townspeople, and they didn't think that much of him. Unaware that he was a practitioner of loving kindness, Metta meditation. He was reading the treatise of Metta, the Buddha's treatise on Metta. And he had a great teacher, and so he would meditate every day. And one day, he had an insight, he had a revelation, he had a satori moment, and became awake, conscious, enlightened. And he went to his teacher, and he said, "Master, I woke up. I'm enlightened." And the master said, "Hold on, let's hold your horses," so to speak. And he asked them, "What is meditation? What are the benefits of meditation?" And at that moment, he dropped his laundry on the ground. His back became erect. He had a countenance of compassion and confidence in his face. He was radiating metta and the beauty and compassion. The eternal was moving through him, and the master said, "Good. Now what is enlightenment?" And in that moment, he picked up his laundry bag and went back to work. And so we're here to have insight. And once we have insight, we go back to work and we engage the world in our unique ways, in our places that call to us, that we can make a mighty difference on the planet at this time in human history and beyond. And so as we think about what has occurred yesterday, we consider the expanding awareness of connection with Metta that even changes our gene pool when our attitude shifts. And we think about engaging the world with our giftedness. Peace and blessings.
Thank you very much, Dr. Beckwith, for those wise words. To introduce the panel of this morning's session, which consists of some marvelous personalities, most people here have been waiting so impatiently to hear from. Please welcome Mr. Deepal Suryarachi.
Most Venerable Mahasangha, Reverend Father, dear friends, it's a challenging task here today. We are 10 o'clock now. We have only 1.5 hours to get through. The session is Conquering Desire. No poverty, no affluence. We hear people saying about the poverty line. If we have a poverty line, then there must be a prosperity line also. Looks like prosperity line is not drawn. Probably this session is about that. We have heard in Dhammapada Buddha says, not even a rain of gold coins will satisfy the endless desire of man. That's a nice saying for us to reflect upon. And talking about joys of a layman, Buddha tells us there are 4 joys that we should look for. Ati sukha, the sense of abundance, the feeling that I have. Bhoga sukha, the ability to enjoy what you have, and having enjoyed, not to have regrets. You have what you want. The secret is reducing what you want so you'll have a lot. Third one, anana sukha, the joy of being free from debt. We know the world crisis, that is because of debt. And the debt at individual level is what creates this. Finally, the life of anavajya sukha, the guilt-free life. Isn't it beautiful if one can approach this? As a person who is coming from the world of commerce, I can tell you in 1 year, we motivated all our people using this as a definition of prosperity. And looking at our needs, in the Mahapiritpata we hear the first question asked from a Samanera, what is one? Ekanama king. The answer is Sabbe Satta Aharatika. All beings live on food. I thought that's a good introduction to our next speaker. We saw a while ago the movie how Metta is linked to the unborn. And in Karaniya Metta Sutra we talk of Sambhave Siva, the one who are to be born. And this lady who is going to share with us the enormous amount of work that she is doing in the realm of Metta to the unborn, to the seed. And it is not only to this generation, to the generations come. And we have heard those days when rishis wanted to see whether their students have mastered the art of Ayurveda. They would ask these students, now that you have learned, go around and pick a plant that cannot be used as medicine. That was how rich this Mother Earth is. And this lady is moved by the man's action to spoil that Mother Earth. In one sutta it says, the people who were first here, maybe aliens, they just touched the earth and ate that. And we were talking about rice that just grows. And now we are discovering we have destroyed this Mother Earth. And we have destroyed the power to recreate the positive. And this day, who is going to speak to us? I will not read through the bio, which is in your book. But I had few interactions. And I'll tell you, she is capable of creating the same energy with which she presents. Please welcome Dr. Vandana Shiva.
Now it's on. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you to the wonderful Ariyaratne family, which has made us all part of their family. And I want to talk to you about Metta in the larger Earth family, with all beings on earth. All the meditations by Venerable Mahinda have been about happiness and well-being for all life. And that happiness and well-being for all life is steeped in our cultures from the learnings that we've received from Buddha and Gandhi. In India, we always say a Shanti Shlok, may there be peace of the earth and the skies and the waters. And as was just mentioned, we have an ancient text, the Metta Upanishad, which says, everything is food, everything is something else's food. So much of the fragmentation and division makes us forget that thought and mind and consciousness and food are all part of one indivisible whole. We have a Hindi saying, Jaisa anna, jaisa man. You are what you eat. The science of Metta for the earth, the science of Metta for our bodies, for our nutrition, for our health, all need a radical paradigm shift in what is called science. What is called science today is more than 100 years obsolete paradigm of fragmentation and division and separation. It's the Cartesian paradigm, created for 200-300 years of rule over other countries, which was called colonialism, and rule over the earth, called the empire of man, over lesser creatures. When in our world there are no lesser creatures, the tiniest of organisms and the biggest of mammals, and the most destructive capacity of human beings, we are all equal as life, as potential, as energy. I did my PhD on the foundations of quantum theory on a topic called non-locality and non-separability in quantum theory. 100 years ago, we knew that the world is not separable. Even the material world is not separable. When you get to a high level of consciousness, of course, nothing is separable. And we've been meditating repeatedly with all beings be happy. And as we drive to this convention center, passing those beautiful gardens, full of diversity, full of abundance, I think of the debates I have to engage in with abstract minds who believe that the barren deserts of the Midwest of America are producing abundance. If you measure it biologically, this is where real food is being created. The industrial farms of the US, which are now being spread to our part of the world, are not food systems. The United Nations has released recent data. They used to only look at what's traded between countries, what's put onto container ships and sold. Only last year, they started to look at what's eaten and realized that 70% of the food eaten comes from small farms and gardens like the ones we are surrounded by. And since so many of our brothers and sisters who are here come from Malaysia, it's the same there. Biodiverse, intensive life of compassion, coexisting in unity, helping each other. In 1984, we had two very, very severe expressions of violence in India. One was the rise of extremist violence in Punjab. 30,000 people were killed. Punjab is the land of the 5 rivers, very prosperous. But it was also chosen for the application of the Green Revolution, which is basically a name given to chemical farming, the application of chemicals to agriculture, of toxics to agriculture. A Nobel Prize for Peace was given for the Green Revolution. In '84, there was no peace in Punjab. There were bombs and guns. I had done my MSc honors in physics, particle physics in Punjab, and Kiran Bedi was then studying political science at the university, 2 years senior to me. That same year, 1984, a pesticide plant leaked in the city of Bhopal, killing 3,000 people immediately, 30,000 since then, and hundreds of thousands of children are being born crippled today. So '84, I woke up and said, why is there so much violence related to agriculture and the way we produce our food? Because I'd been busy with physics and quanta. I didn't know the Green Revolution was happening in our country. So I studied it. I was working on a program for the United Nations University, and I did a study. The book is called The Violence of the Green Revolution. I did a lot of field work, but I also looked at the entire history of agriculture, the Green Revolution, and realized that there was no need for chemicals in farming, but the chemical industry needed to expand its markets after the wars. Every chemical used in agriculture is a chemical for warfare. Chemical fertilizers were made in the same factories that made explosives. And so you will notice so often news of fertilizer bombs, because those same fertilizers can be turned into bombs. Ammonium nitrate being confiscated, but it is also distributed. Afghanistan, the US forces distributed so much chemical fertilizer to counter the Soviets that every village has its own bombing ingredients. That's what the bombs are made of. Pesticides were designed to kill people. The nerve gases were evolved to kill people in the concentration camps. Things like Agent Orange, dioxin, were evolved to spray on Vietnam, and today we have generations of veterans in the US and children in Vietnam being born disabled. So this is chemical warfare. And after finishing my study, I took a pledge that I was going to do everything to promote a non-violent agriculture, which meant I had to learn a lot from the seed, from the soil, from the peasants, from older people. And what I have learned in these 30 years is, first, that it is not true that we are producing more food. We are producing more commodities for greed. It's telling you how the United Nations has done these studies on who's feeding the world. 30% of the food eaten comes from industrial large-scale farms. 70% comes from small-scale family farms. This year has been declared by the United Nations as the year of the family farm based on this recognition. Those family farms, like the gardens around us, are non-violent coexistence with the earth. Because the plants work for themselves. With diversity, you don't have to do anything. The diversity replenishes the fertility in your soil. The diversity protects your pests. You don't have to spray pesticides. Diversity invites all the pollinators that then increase our food production. There's been recent calculations that the contribution of other beings like butterflies and bees and other pollinators is equivalent to $160 billion annually in terms of what they contribute to food. But we thought it's a luxury to maintain butterflies. Spray them to death. They're your enemies. Textbooks of pest control say every species is an enemy of humanity, ready to attack to rob you of your food. Not at all true. The species are ready to give an offering to you so that we can have food if we protect their lives. 70% comes from non-violent farming, 30% comes from agriculturist war. Only 10% comes from the two crops that are being spread around the world as if they are food, corn and soya. Everything is corn and soya. 10% eaten by humans, and even that 10% is eaten by humans who have been denied the right to know what they're eating, a big issue in the United States around GMO labeling. GMOs are genetically modified organisms. They're genetically engineered with a gene from an organism that is not related to them. Now, non-violent evolutionary intelligence of the kind that Reverend Michael has been referring to all the time evolves within an individual, a species, an organism, which is self-organized and has intelligence. Wheat breeds with wheat, that beautiful Metta of the unborn, is humans, having children who are humans. But genetic engineering is a tool for cutting genes and moving them through, literally, only two violent methods. One is shooting with a gene gun. They call it a gene gun. And the second is infecting the plant with a cancer called agrobacterium. Both are violent. One is biological warfare, the other is genetic warfare with a gun. The technology is extremely crude. It might be working at the genetic level, but it's a bit like the drones dropping bombs. They will kill children in wedding parties as much as people they have accused of being extremists. So you shoot, you don't know where it lands, whether it gets absorbed, so they add an antibiotic resistance marker. That means every genetically engineered food has antibiotic resistance genes in it. You have TB, you can't cure yourself. It is the habit of intelligence to determine its evolution. So because these are alien genes, there's a silencing effect. They don't want to express it. So they add virulent promoters of viruses to express the gene. I had a letter from a scientist in China at the peak of the SARS epidemic. You remember the SARS epidemic? And the scientist wrote and said, my feeling is the soya beans we are feeding animals with these viruses are mutating and hybridizing in the gut of the animal to create a supervirus. And that supervirus is jumping from animals to humans, and that's what, in his view, SARS was. We also have, it continues to be announced once in a while, the H1N1 virus, called the avian flu. You know, it has genes from 3 sets of viruses: human, pig, and chicken. And it started from a factory farm on the border of the United States and Mexico. So the more we think we are masters of the world, the more we think we engineer life, then co-evolve with it, the more we create a scrambling of the intelligence of nature and all beings. The more we spread disease. I was very fortunate to have been invited in 1987 to a conference on the new genetic engineering technologies because I'd written that book on the Green Revolution. It was organized in Geneva, the United Nations was involved, and all the old war companies who were now the agrochemical companies were in the room. And they said, we have to genetically engineer seed in order to take a patent on seed in order to collect royalties. A patent means an exclusive right granted to an inventor. In the case of seed, a patent on seed means companies like Monsanto become creators and inventors of life. To me, that is the most violent abuse of the meta of life. And I sometimes joke and say, GMO, genetically modified organism, means God or creation, move over. We are the masters of the universe. And that was the reason I started to save seeds. 87 on my flight back from Geneva, I said, this is what I will do the rest of my life. And I started a movement, later called Navdanya, and I learned that from a tribal in Tamil Nadu who had 9 crops in his field. And I said, wow, you're growing 9 crops together. Because we've been so trained into the monoculture of the mind. Thank you. I was longing for this. This is metta, to know when someone is thirsty. To get water without asking, rather than being told by Coca-Cola, 12 rupees a bottle. And if you dare resist, we'll sue you. We've shut down 3 plants of Coca-Cola in India. So this tribal gives me this discourse of the 9 seeds. This is the 9 planets, Navagraha, cosmic unity, 9 seeds, ecological unity on the land, giving nutrition that gives us harmony in our bodies. And this tribal who'd never been to school gave me this lesson of the continuity of metta, from our bodies to the field to the cosmos. So we call our movement Navdanya, which means 9 seeds, but it also means the Navadana, the new gift. And the new gift is simply the recognition that we are one with the rest of life, that biodiversity and seed is a commons, not the property of 5 companies. The 5 companies that were the chemical companies that control the seed. 1, Monsanto. I call it my favorite company. And you know, the name actually means sacred mountain. Very common in Spanish and Italian. I've been taken to villages called Monsanto because they have sacred mountains. In 1995, His Holiness was, I think it was his 75th birthday, the Dalai Lama's birthday. And I'd been called to speak, and it's a long time ago, now 20 years, isn't it? And I talked. Oh no, it would have been 2005, can't be 20 years. He's not that old. And he wrote so beautifully on a slip of paper, all beings want to be happy. No other being has a right to take away that happiness. And for me, that's a very, very important issue. It's not just what you do with your meditation, not just what you do with overcoming desire, but because we are part of one web of life, and we are relationship. And as Venerable Mahindra said, we are 99.999% empty. But I would say 100%, because even that 1% is made by someone else. It's relationship. Everything's born of relationship. And if everything is born of relationship, then our overcoming the culture of greed has to be a relational enterprise, a collective enterprise of social responsibility and social engagement. I know no matter how much I meditate, Monsanto won't disappear. I have to act in the world also, with metta, but still act. In 98, the genetically engineered seeds were brought to India. They were announced in the newspapers. I knew the laws of my land because I partly contributed to them. I rang up the ministry, did you approve this? They said, no, no one came to us. So I went to the courts, to the Supreme Court, to stop the trials. Took 4 years for the Supreme Court to look through it, and the government by then, it's, 4 years is a long time. By then the bribes can move. Monsanto was caught in Indonesia bribing $175,000 for approvals for this BT cotton, which is what was introduced to India. From the years they entered to today, a new phenomena started of farmer suicides. Yesterday, just before we were leaving, we had a little discussion with Venerable Mahinda, and he was talking about how the whales and the dolphins are committing suicide because the oceans are so polluted and contaminated. 300,000 nearly. 284,000 was last year's figure of 2012. This year it'll have risen. So 284,000 Indian farmers have committed suicide since 1995, since this privatization of seed and monopoly on seed started. So just like water is everyone's right, the right of every being, seeds are the right of every farmer, so that they can perform their duty to the earth. Navdaniya's movement, and we work with more than 750,000 farmers whom we've trained, our farmers take a simple pledge. We have received these seeds from nature and our ancestors. It is our duty to protect them in their richness, integrity, diversity, purity, to hand over to future generations. And therefore, for the higher duty of metta, we will not obey lower laws of greed, which make it illegal for us to save our seeds. Because a patent means farmers can't save seeds. Seed saving and seed exchange is now defined as a crime. But it has other consequences. Because when you define other beings as your property and as your creation, you also start stealing indigenous knowledge. Yeah? You find neem is very good for pest control. And I launched a campaign after Bhopal. No more Bhopals, let us plant neem. 94 it is patented by the US Department of Agriculture and a company called Grace. I collected 100,000 signatures, built a movement in India, took the signatures to the European Patent Office and started a case. It took us 11 years, but the biggest government of the world and one of the biggest chemical countries was defeated by our voluntary actions. I come from Doon Valley, a beautiful valley in the Himalayas, and I hope some of you will find your way there sometime because we run a school for earth democracy, which is metta for the earth. We teach organic farming, we teach seed saving. Our valley is very famous for an aromatic rice called basmati, which means the queen of aroma. A Texas company says they invented the basmati. The height of the plant, the length of the grain, the aroma, and even the method of cooking. Now, my grandmother taught me how to cook rice when I was 6 years old. Very easy to do. No one has an excuse to not be able to cook rice. Yeah? You put rice, you put that much water above the rice and boil it. Can't go wrong. So they say they invented it. did a big campaign on that, and their patent claims were withdrawn. Our old wheats have very high protein, 9%. You can eat a chapati without dal and you won't feel the need for dal. They also they don't have gluten expression. They don't give rise to gluten allergies, which every third Westerner now has a gluten allergy. Monsanto patented an ancient Indian wheat variety. We took that challenge. They wanted to own all gluten intolerant, gluten-free wheats, all products, all biscuits, all breads ever made anywhere in the world. He said, sorry, not an invention. Nature evolved it. Our farmers co-evolved it. This is not your invention. The issue of patenting life, I do feel needs to be taken up by the spiritual community because it is a spiritual violation. It is a spiritual violation of denying the intelligence in life, denying the consciousness in life, and claiming that you are the Lord and Master, inventing and putting together whatever exists. Some years ago, I was asked by the National Commission of Women, which is our statutory body for gender equality, to look at the impact of globalization on women's lives in agriculture and on access to water, because these are the two big economies that women look after. So I organized public hearings in different parts of the country to really get a feel from the ground. And at a public hearing, a Tamilian peasant, in her witness, came up and said, we used to go to the market every week to sell our produce. We had small farms, we grew vegetables. Our farms have been taken away because of the expansion of industrial production around Chennai. Says, our farms are gone, we have no vegetables to sell, but we still go to the market every day, every week. Now we sell our bodies so we can take care of our children. What was shared with you yesterday with Sunita of the violence against women, it's so deeply connected to a violence against the earth, based on greed, so that the earth is not able to take care of our needs, is not able to produce the abundance, and creates such a deep, brutal poverty that then leads to all those consequences. I think one of the things that the Metta community needs to look at is how this greed economy is taking away from people the access to land, to soil, to seed, to water, pushing people into a corner, and then increasing the crime economy and the economy of violence. Because when people have nothing else, what are they going to do? A young man will snatch a gold chain. You will have an explosion in sex trafficking. Young men will be given guns to fight each other. The gun economy is the biggest economy of our times. It is a calculated economy. We become victims. But behind it is a plan of greed. Let us make money by killing. And that killing is behind the explosion of cancers. Pesticides lead to cancer. They are carcinogenic. They are proven to be carcinogenic. There's a train that leaves Punjab these days called the cancer train. It's called the cancer train. It's so full of Punjab farmers who have sprayed so much pesticide that they have cancer, but they must go to a hospital in Rajasthan, which is started by the Jain community and is a charitable hospital because cancer treatment is not affordable. Right here in Sri Lanka, a very important study was done last year. The occurrence of kidney failures and kidney disease has increased and exploded. in a large part of Asia. And this scientific study basically looked at all the factors that could be contributing and then zeroed in on glyphosate, which is Roundup, which is a herbicide that Monsanto uses and makes its own plants resist this so they can sell more of it and kill everything else, everything green that comes in contact with it. The doctors of Sri Lanka found that 400,000 kidney disease victims, 20,000 deaths. They said it's Monsanto. The president ordered a ban. It lasted for 2 weeks. Monsanto came down. But Monsanto doesn't come down alone. It brings all the force of governments. And what we are facing today is a convergence of the violent energies on the planet driven by greed for a short time, because this cannot sustain itself in any way, cannot sustain itself in terms of the planet's life, cannot sustain itself in terms of how much disease is spreading, and cannot sustain itself by killing farmers who are our producers of food, our annadatas. And so we do need science of metta in our everyday lives of how we produce our food. We have to make food part of the sacredness of life again, and part of the sacredness of seed. In the seed is embodied potential well-being of all future generations to come, of all life on earth and human life. And that is why no matter how much, and I won't tell you stories of how much I'm attacked, in dirty ways too, with threats. For me, this is my metta. To defend that little seed and its freedom and its integrity from the kind of assault it faces. We need to create a science of metta, an economics of metta. We need to create living economies. And food is such an easy place to begin because we all eat. Even if we fast, we give the fast and eat. Most of our people are farmers in Sri Lanka, in India. A living economy of food means we work with the earth, with biodiversity, ecologically, through organic methods, grow healthy food so farmers are not in debt, and that healthy food feeds our people. We talk about seeds of freedom and gardens of hope, because all farming should look like the farms around this campus. Food production should not be war, it should be gardening, a gardening of love, of giving back to the earth, of a gratitude. Saving seed is giving back to the earth, because one seed can give rise to 1 million seeds. 1 million in the millets, thousands in other crops. What could be deeper in an economy of abundance than allowing the seed to multiply and reproduce and be freely exchanged? And what could be an economics of scarcity worse than not allowing farmers to have their own seed? And terminating the seed, they actually worked on technologies to make the seed sterile. When the plant matures and the embryo is forming, a lethal toxin is released through genetic engineering to kill the embryo so that the seed is sterile and the farmer will have to buy seed every year. So far, through the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, we have prevented this from being commercialized. Because we have movements which haven't allowed the whole world to be overtaken by these deadly killing seeds, shaped by a mind of greed and blindness, there's now new attempts, and this year has been very intensive. So, we can't get the market directly, let's make local seeds illegal and force every farmer to come to the market, we'll then sell them GMO seeds. There is a Sri Lankan seed law on the table based on compulsory registration. You can't have your own seed. It's illegal. That's why Tomorrow, I will go work with the farmers of Sri Lanka on defending the freedom of the seed and the freedom of the farmer and the freedom of society, because patents mean money flows out. In the case of BT cotton in India, thousands of crores go out as royalty. Brazilian farmers took a case to Supreme Court, $2.2 billion royalty payment for soya bean. So we are talking of an extractive economy. They tried the law that they're bringing here in India in 2004. Same, compulsory registration. I went around the country, talked to farmers, collected signatures, took 100,000 signatures to our Prime Minister of that time, Manmohan Singh, and said, we are in the land of Gandhi. And there are 3 lessons Gandhi gave us. Actually, there are 4 lessons Gandhi gave us. One lesson is right here, Sarvodaya, upliftment of all. The second was Swadeshi, living economies made with your hands and your capacity and your potential. Swaraj, ability to rule yourself through metta, because his thinking was very clear. Unless there's metta, there can't be self-rule. And fourth, he said, as long as the superstition exists that unjust laws must be obeyed, so long will slavery exist. He led the Champaran movement against compulsory cultivation of indigo, 1917. 2017, we are going to celebrate 100 years. He led the salt satyagraha, when the British said, only we will make salt, because they wanted to collect royalties. And Gandhi said, he gives it for free, we need it for our survival, we will continue to make salt, we will not obey laws. So we do a bead satyagraha and say, nature gives it for free, we need it for our survival, we will not obey your seed laws, either of patenting or criminalizing our own partnership with the seed. That 100,000 signatures stopped that law. And I hope, with the discussion I had briefly with the Prime Minister, the discussions I'll have with the farmers, those of you here, this law can be stopped. But if it isn't stopped, at the end of it, Metta means to be one with this beautiful universe. We must throw our hearts, minds, and spirit in the way of greed. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Dr. Vandana Shiva, for this wonderful, thought-provoking presentation. Next, we move on to a video clip which will feature a speaker that was to be here, but she was here a few days ago. And until they get the video, I will just read a few lines about her. She was in an industry which creates desire. And this lady has found solace in meditation and has started bringing the beauty of meditation and love kindness into the world of business. Can we have the video? Yep, the video is ready and they will show you. Please watch this video of Miss Jacqueline Bennett. All right, okay. Before that, can we have the video of by Vandana Shiva? Thank you.
खेतों में घुसे रहे। बस वही है, बाकी हमारे पास में तो अंगूठा छाप है, मुझे सहन करना भी ढंग से नहीं आता। अभी बहुत फायदा है, बहुत लोगों को रोजगार मिला, बहुतों का फायदा है, बीज ले जाते हैं, लोगों को घर में अपने संभालने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती। जब अपने बीज हो गया खा लिया, यहाँ नौदाने से बीज ले जाते हैं, अपनी सब्जी होती खा लेते, कोई बीज नहीं बचाते। बीज के लिए भिंडी का बीज यहाँ से ले जाएंगे, राई ले जाएंगे, पालक ले जाएंगे, मेथी ले जाएंगे, कस्तूरी मेथी, दूसरी मेथी। मुझे ये खुशी है कि कम से कम यहाँ हरा भरा देखने के लिए मिलता है। खुश होता है कि मैं तो जब से लगी हूँ और अभी तक मुझे 17 साल हो गए, मैं काम के लिए सबको डांटती हूँ, पर मैं यहाँ आके कभी वो नहीं कहती, क्योंकि मैं कभी ये नहीं सोचती हूँ कि ये काम मेरा नहीं है। मैं अपनी रोटी लाती हूँ, यहीं पर खाती हूँ, यहाँ अपना काम कर लगी रहती, और औरों को भी डांटती रहती हूँ कि टेम पर लगो, टेम पर लगो। तभी तो मैं बोलती हूँ कि मैं चल जाऊंगा तो तुम सब लोग खुश हो जाएंगे। बुढ़िया चिल्लाती रहती है।
स्कूल प्रोग्राम शुरू किया कि चाहे बच्चों को बचपन से नॉलेज मिल जाए कि बीज क्या चीज़ है, किसान कितना स्ट्रगल करता है, नेचर क्या है, प्रकृति क्या है, या मिट्टी क्या है। क्योंकि मिट्टी को अधिकतर लोग समझते हैं कि ये एक वस्तु है जिससे लिया जाए, बस लिया जाए, वापस कुछ न लिया जाए।
At Natanya, we know that children are the change makers, and since we work with seed, we know that if you broadcast the seed, there'll definitely be germination somewhere in the minds of the young people to carry on what Vandana has been fighting for so many years.
Your generation has to change this mentality. If your generation can change this mentality, then I think we will go a very long way in protecting not just the ecology of India, but also the youth, the young generation, you know, that they will not have this strange disillusion of identity and disillusionment. Okay, देखो हर चीज बर्बाद है, हम क्या करें, you know.
We organized a 2-day Young Ecologists Earth Summit on Earth Day 2012 because the rights of nature and the rights of the future are intimately connected. In their life, in automobiles and out of automobiles, they realized that the support that they get, whether it's the food they eat, the water they drink, the air they breathe, comes with their connection with the earth. And that's the connection that the young ecologists try to make. With that connection and awareness that they have the power to take care of this beautiful planet for themselves and future generations to come.
खेती मेरी है, तकनीक मेरा है, तो बीज और किसी का क्यों? बीज तो खेत में पैदा होता है, बीज तो कंपनी में या फैक्ट्री में तो तैयार नहीं होता है, वहां तो प्रक्रिया होती है। और देशी बीजों में सुगंध है, पौष्टिकता है, स्वादिष्ट है, टिकाऊता है और देसी बीज कुछ तो भी देके जाता है, किसान को कभी लेके नहीं जाता। जब तक देसी बीज था तब तक किसानों की आत्महत्या नहीं थी। खाने में बहुत अच्छा चना है, हाथ लगाया ऐसा, ये देखो कितने सही बीज है और ये बीज को फंगस नहीं लगे, कीड़ नहीं लगे, इसलिए जो भूसा कहते हैं हम इसको, इसके साथ हमने रख दिए तो इसको कोई भी फंगस नहीं लगती, कोई भी कीड़ नहीं लगती, कुदरती तौर पर उसकी देखभाल होती है। नाही ते ओरिजिनल जीवातलं चाहिए।
Beginning with one seed, we have created a network of 650,000 farmers who recognizes the value of their seed freedom, who recognize the fact that when they do ecological agriculture and organic farming, they actually have more prosperity because it's the farmers who got trapped into GM seeds, BT cotton, purchase of chemicals, pesticides, fertilizer, who are today so deeply indebted that 250,000 Indian farmers have committed suicide.
दिल्ली की सीड बैंक, दिल्ली तक जाओ, यही मेरा किसानों को कहना है, क्योंकि ये नव धान्य की हर तहसील के कोने कोने में, हर जिले के कोने कोने में, हर गांव गांव में अपने बीज बैंक होना ही चाहिए। बीज बैंक का बीज निकालो और बुआई करो और अपनी हरी भरी खेती करो। अपनी जान गई तो जाने दो, लेकिन बीज देसी मत जाने दो।
अभी जो टारगेट है हमारे वो अभी पूरे नहीं हुए हैं, क्योंकि अभी बहुत कुछ बाकी है, कम पहुँचे। अभी हम कह रहे हैं कि 6 लाख लोगों तक हम पहुँचे हैं, तो 6 लाख इस देश के लिए तो बहुत कम है इस हिसाब से। तो टारगेट पूरे नहीं हुए हैं, सीड कंजर्वेशन लगातार जारी है और कोशिश करेंगे कि पूरे देश तक पहुँचने की।
I see Navdanya having at least 100 million people around the world deeply involved in building another economy, a living economy, another democracy, a living democracy, and another culture, a living culture.
I had the great privilege and honor to meet Dr. Arya Ratna probably over 30 plus years ago. And when I met Dr. Arya Ratna, we became instant friends. And then when I saw the work that he was doing, and he invited me to come and visit Sarvodia, because I was working in Sri Lanka anyway, in the textile field, I was just amazed at what Dr. Ari was able to do. And the greatest inspiration for me was that he was taking the principles of the Buddha and the Gandhian philosophy and putting that into action. Every day is a new opportunity to learn. So every day I'm confronted with business challenges, and in that moment I have the opportunity to witness what my own, number one, my own original desire is, what my motivation is, what my intentionality is. And then, of course, witnessing, within these few minutes, the mind is very quick, within the few minutes of being confronted with a real life challenge, a business challenge, which are always very complicated, I make sure I do what is called a personal check-in. I check in and make sure my intention is correct, my motivation is appropriate, that the actions that I take will not harm anybody or anything, and that, of course, I'm using right speech, right action, right livelihood. So I'm in every moment working my utmost to make sure that I'm doing everything with this proper motivation and intentionality. So the Buddha gives us a beautiful roadmap, and he lays everything out in a very organized fashion. So as long as, we are continually checking in with the Buddhist principles and the Gandhian philosophies of right action, right livelihood, loving kindness, as long as we continue to check in and make sure that everything that we're doing comes from this place of a pure heart and mind. Well, we have principles that we function with. So we have a value set up in our company whereby we have right speech, we have right action. We make sure that we teach. We actually have teachers come in and speak to the team and share how they can cultivate their words and cultivate the type of words that they use. So words are very powerful. If people, and we can do this all day long, people are sending emails, they're picking up the telephone, they're communicating with each other. How can we communicate with each other knowing that every word that we say has the ability to be positive or it has the ability to be negative? So how do we cultivate this positive way of being in the world, starting with our motivation, starting with our words, starting with, our own personal desires, setting up land. If you put the right nutrients in the land and you create a beautiful environment for people to work in, then hopefully that beautiful environment will rub off. Breaking down the barriers and allowing people to feel that they're part of a whole, which we all are. We know that philosophically, that we are all exactly the same, and that we all have the same basic needs. We all want respect. We all want appreciation. We all desire recognition. And this recognition, appreciation, and the kindness that we give to each other, then once you feel that and your heart is full, you can radiate that feeling to others, and you can radiate that action to others. I think it's all about attitude, and if you don't see a conflict, you don't have conflict. If you make conflict, you have conflict. So for me, I'm not conflicted in this. Because how we as an organization, how Bennett and Company is successful is that each team group in the company, they know that they're working for the team. They know that their company embraces specific philosophies that affects them on a daily basis. So respect, appreciation, and consideration, and kindness, and right, communication and right attitude, all of these things affect them. So when you're actually doing things from a good motivation and high integrity, actually things come out quite nicely. Truly, competitiveness and competitive attitude goes hand in hand with compassion. Absolutely. There's no question that, but this has to be cultivated. We didn't learn these things in school, at least schools that I went to. I went to art school, and we didn't learn compassion, and we didn't learn that compassion and competition really are two hands that come together, and they can come together in a peaceful way. So we have to actually learn this, and it is very possible to learn it because I was able to learn it. So because of right action, right mindfulness, right intentionality, right speech, all of these things, when you do a good job, this comes out into right effort. And doing a good job and perseverance in doing a good job creates a much better product than if you were to do it just worrying about competitors. So if you take the worry away from it, if you don't consider that, oh, I have to really be better than my competitors. So I don't think about that at all. I don't worry about that. I don't want to worry. I focus my attention on doing the absolute best job coming from the most appropriate intention and motivation.
Okay. Now, thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, who is not a stranger to those who are with Sarvodaya. Please welcome Dr. Vinya, the General Secretary of Sarvodaya Movement. Is known for his community work and bringing his specialty as a humanitarian activist, a community medicine specialist, and he has developed numerous innovative community health programs, working closely with government sector, universities, professional sector, and even the private sector. And over to you, Vinya. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepal, for that kind introduction. It's an impossible act to follow Dr. Vandana Shiva, so I feel very humbled to be able to speak at this session. What I'm going to share very briefly is the experience of Sarvodaya and where we are now, and some thoughts about our future as a national movement aiming towards social and economic transformation. I will actually use only a few slides because we have to finish quite soon. So I would like to focus on the Sarvodaya's development process, which has evolved over 5 decades, and which continues to evolve with the experience that we are gaining, but whilst retaining the original vision, and we are moving forward at a time when our country is facing enormous challenges. Also, we know our world is facing enormous challenges. So, the title of our session today is Building a No Poverty, No Influence Society. So, based on the Sarvodaya experience, as we all know, Sarvodaya has a very holistic approach to development, which doesn't only look at economic well-being, but also total well-being of individuals, starting with spiritual awakening and ending up at political awakening, starting with the individual to the world. And in terms of addressing poverty, we never thought poverty just as an isolated phenomenon, but it's connected to powerlessness, disempowerment. So for nearly 60 years, Sarvodaya has been implementing an integrated program because of the multifactorial nature of poverty and powerlessness. Just addressing economic issues will not solve problems. So the Sarvodaya's message was very simple and very clear. That is, you can address your own problems with your own resources. You have a lot of potential within you. Our communities are blessed with a lot of resources, spiritual resources as well as natural resources. And then we supported over 5 decades the people who picked up that thought that we can awaken ourselves. So since 1958, with our great founder and the president of Sarvodaya, we have come a long way to reach about 15,000 communities throughout Sri Lanka. And we have reached these communities through voluntarism, sharing, participation, and we have been also able to institutionalize a process so that this could be scaled up to cover the entire country. However, the root of all our action is based on the Buddhist teachings. Although we are a very secular organization when it comes to our staff, our outreach, the communities with which work, whom we work. However, the core philosophy comes from the Buddhist teachings and Gandhi teachings. Metta. We all know what Metta is, and we translated this into action in a large scale and also at a community level through the notion of sharing. Dana, Priyavachana, Arthacharya, Samanatmata. So throughout the first 2 decades of the movement, what we did was to go from community to community and then try to fulfill their basic needs, and mainly we started with cutting access roads through participation of all segments of the society, and we call it a process where we build the road, and by building the road we build ourselves, we awaken ourselves. So that was the process that we followed in very simple terms. However, it was a very deep process in the sense that it had to be institutionalized in order to achieve sustainability and to be able to really reach a large number of communities. So evolved a model which was based on initially changing the mindset and then creating social infrastructure, creating a community organization which can take on its own action to address the basic needs of the community, as well as identify with the community what are the structural injustices that the community is facing, how to link with government services, how to do advocacy work, and thereafter how to become economically self-sustaining. So the 5-stage village development process that evolved through Sarvodaya laid the foundation in more than 5,000 villages out of the 15,000 villages that we reached, a foundation which now is able to build on to change our economic, social and political structures in this country. I will not go into the details of this, but the process is that you start with your consciousness, you start with your mind and enable the communities to evolve structures to take the decision making process into their own hands. Finally, ending up with what we call a Gram Swaraj. Dr. Shiva referred to it. The self-sustainability is based on being able to govern yourself, self-governance, Swaraj, as well as Shakti or self-reliance. So to support this process, we have built a big infrastructure around the country, which is largely maintained through our own resources now, and some of my colleagues who are district coordinators who are integral part of this process are here today, and we support the process of development of village communities through a human and physical infrastructure that spreads across the country, and this center is one such resource which we have developed over 30 years, and this infrastructure is vital to our social and economic transformation that we envisage. We are trying to fulfill the 10 basic human needs as we identified, and there are multiple programs that are being designed and implemented in hundreds and thousands places of Sri Lanka to affect this change. So during this 55 years of evolution of Sarvodaya, we have had an entrepreneurial approach, not just in economic terms, but also in terms of being creative, trying to find innovative solutions at difficult times. We always evolved through community participation, using indigenous knowledge, our own solutions to problems. I'll not go into details, but the first 20 years of Sarvodaya was based on creating this community change through the satisfaction of basic needs, which are locally planned and locally resourced. Then we entered into a much more larger scale social entrepreneurship phase where donors supported us. We started our own income generating projects. Our microfinance program became a formal institution, and then now we are entering into a new social entrepreneurship phase because Sri Lanka is no longer considered a poor country or a low income country. We have to now rely on our own income to serve the communities who are still facing enormous social problems, who are having, after 30 years of war, who are struggling to survive, do not have even their basic needs. Although the poverty level is now down to 8%, according to the government statistics, we are working in communities where the families cannot even have a 3 square meals a day. So this is the situation where we are really, the reality we are facing, and the impact of the war in our country has been tremendous. Over 100,000 people have been killed during the last the 26 years the war lasted, and we have also the aftermath of the war, the wounded, those who have lost their loved ones, rebuilding the community, especially when the war ended by military means. It didn't end with negotiations. It was a comprehensive military victory, so there is a victor and a vanquished. So we are struggling to rebuild relationships in our country, and Sarvodaya is playing a very vital role, again based on the Metta principle. Going directly into the economic model that we are now trying to really address, we all know that poverty and environmental degradation is there, and the economic model is based on profit, survival of the fittest approach. I think yesterday one of the speakers referred to this. And income distribution is uneven, and there is disempowerment of communities, and this whole economic growth is based on credit, not on people's own savings and their own resources. So our alternative economic system is based on Singalova Sutra. That is, we only spend one portion of our earnings for our survival, our consumption. 2 parts of that income we get, we try to invest and keep one portion in case of an emergency. So we try to develop an alternative economic approach based on satisfaction of basic human needs. And there are other principles that we try to follow: use of renewable energy, and having the gender issues addressed, and use of technology. I'll not go into details of this. I'll share this presentation with you all if you are interested. Because of time, I'll not go into explain this. However, what is important also is that we are looking at not just alleviation of poverty, but also addressing affluence. Now, a lot of people even criticize us. We can understand the poverty alleviation part, but we don't really understand affluence. Why can't there be affluence in the world? I think it's simple. We are not, if we go to the extreme of consumption, I think we are depriving others of their basic needs. So can we give up voluntarily give up wasteful styles of living? We have more clothes than we need. We eat more than what we nutritionally require. We consume things which are really not required for our day-to-day living or our happiness. So how can we voluntarily give up something? That's how you address affluence. That process of really consuming more than what you need is drawing on our energy systems, and we are facing an energy crisis around the world and so on. And can we get the sharing, concept of sharing, which arises out of Metta, also to practice in the economy, where we get those who have a lot to share with other people. And also, simultaneously, we have to address the structural injustices. These won't happen. There is a political economy. How do you address that? So we are empowering those communities with whom we are working now in order to negotiate for their products, sale of their products, improving their indigenous production processes. Those things we are doing through our economic enterprise development services, and also keep on reminding communities and ourselves that being spiritual and practicing spiritual principles is not uneconomical. Actually, it adds value to the economy. And finally, we are creating a system where village savings can be retained in the village for the village people use in their own enterprise development. We have enormous obstacles. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka doesn't allow us to do that. However, we are trying to now find innovative solutions, because we also understand the regulatory requirements, because people's savings are sacred. They have to be protected. You can't let even community organizations to collect people's money and resources and then misuse them. So we are in the process of now transforming our microfinance system, which was a non-profit system, into a much more regulated, profit with conscience kind of process, and we are very much in the middle of this transformation process. So the alternative economic system does not try to create a new few rich, but also not trying to create profit by destroying the environment, and also not engage in immoral activities, although they are perfectly legal. Sri Lanka very recently passed a legislation where gambling will be permitted, and we are very worried. No matter what Mahasangha said, no matter what the high prelates of Sri Lanka said, the bill got passed in the parliament. So that's why, Dr. Shiva, that we are very concerned about the Seeds Act. We have been educating our communities. We have also been trying to lobby to a discussion about Seeds Act, but so far we have a very powerful political economy which is resisting all people's endeavors. So finally, this holistic approach is based on satisfying people's needs and also promoting participatory democracy, and we go into forming capital, not just financial capital at village level, but social and spiritual capital, and networking these organizations so that there's a strong foundation at the bottom towards a social transformation. We have started economic activities, some have flourished very well, we have also failed miserably in some, but we are encouraging young people who have this vision of an alternative economy, alternative nation in Sri Lanka, and we are giving them the necessary skills and support. So hundreds and thousands of young people are trained in various skills, and we are learning also from our past mistakes. We have a network of institutions, and we are also trying alternative farming techniques and sustainable farming, organic farming, and there are many activities that are going around, happening throughout the country. So in a nutshell, what we are trying to do is to affect the consciousness, the way we think about ourselves, our inner beings, our spiritual lives and interaction with others, then try to affect a change in the economy to satisfy our basic needs, and to have a governance system where every human being is respectful of others, and we conform to good governance principles. We created a set of institutions starting with the village society, and national level we have this institution particularly to lead the consciousness part, the Sarvodaya Institute of Higher Learning, Vishwaniketan, Shanti Sena, and also the other enterprises we have started, the Sarvodaya economic enterprise development services, and the Deshode development finance company, and we have a technology unit which does infrastructure development, which again is functioning as a social enterprise. And finally, our latest program, the national program, is called Deshode, which is National Awakening, trying to link with other groups, those who are working towards good governance, those who are working towards right to health, right to information. So now we have evolved Sarvodaya to a level where we are now mobilizing a national force to effect a change in our economy and our political system. So these institutions together, we hope that in the next decade will lead Sarvodaya into its accomplishing its goal of no poverty, no affluent society, and we are not, while we draw on spiritual values and integrate spiritual practices in all our work, we are not rejecting modern technology. We have pioneered use of internet and smartphone technology in villages, which we are now connecting to our economic programs, always keeping in mind the sustainability and environmental sustainability and financial sustainability. So Sarvodaya Institute of Higher Learning, you all blessed this institute by having this. We had a dream of having a symposium like this 10 years ago when we started the new phase of building this institution. This institution will be connected to 12 other development education institutes which are connected to more than 5,000 villages that we are working. And this new education is not based on the kind of higher education institutes that we have, which just are factories producing certificates. This is higher in the sense that it is deeper learning. That's why we call it higher learning. So we believe that this universal consciousness that we are generating, and with the participation of like-minded individuals such as yourselves around the world, when we have such energy points working and individually transmitting our own metta, we can create a new world. Thank you very much.
While there will be a very small video clip about Sarvodaya, and Dr. Vandana Shiva will join us at the head table. And in the meantime, now it's 11:30. Venerable Sangha, if you may, you can decide about your movements for lunch if it is late. Yeah. So, but we will have a very small Q&A. We'll try to finish reverences by about 11:45. What a wonderful morning. We are told that mothers naturally have metta, compassion, equanimity, and unselfish joy towards their own children. But why the same mother cannot extend the same loving kindness to somebody else's child? That's because of the small mind which we heard from our presentations from the morning. And if I may to sum up all what we heard, the beautiful presentation by Dr. Vandana Shiva and the interviews with Jacqueline and now the presentation by Vinya is, as we are all interconnected and interdependent, and any wealth creation should not deprive the other. That is the embodiment and living of loving kindness. And we heard real applications of this through these speeches. We want to have one or two questions because before we break for lunch, we have a little task to do to present some mementos to the speakers. So can we get the mics going? I can see the lady over there put her hand first. The Venerable Monk here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we'll see. We need mics express.
Hello. My name is Kusupia from Cambodia. I would like to thank you very much for your wonderful presentations. I appreciate very much. To Dr. Vansi,
into farming is. The second calculation is, and this is what I've learned, because when I would see farms like the ones we have here, and then I would see Punjab, and then I would see the United States, I said, but they're growing nothing. They're growing a little bit of rice, they're growing a bit of corn. You go to Mexico, they grow corn with beans, with squash. They call it milpa. That system produces more. Yeah? But a lot of it is for the family and the local market. The global industry has made us think that the only thing that brings us prosperity is the 4 or 5 commodities that are traded internationally. So we're made to grow chemical rice, corn, soya, in Malaysia, palm oil, Indonesia, palm oil. Those commodities don't feed people. 90% of the corn and soya, and even a lot of the palm oil, is being used for biofuel to drive cars, for the hunger of cars, and to torture animals as animal feed. We have a report, and I will leave it with you, Vinya. We call it health per acre. We measure nutrition, and we measure the economy of the farmer, not the economy of the company. Of course, the company makes a lot of profit, but that profit comes at the cost of the farmer. The reason Indian farmers are committing suicide and they're in debt is because the companies are making more money from them. Now, if the company is making more money, the farmer is losing. If you're losing, you're not becoming more prosperous. In fact, you're not surviving at all. We just calculated the nutrition on biodiverse farms, on mixed farms using local seeds. We can feed 2 Indias if we work compassionately with the earth, the diversity, and the farmers, and in the circle of compassion is the eaters and the unborn child. When all of that is part of one circle of compassion, and that's where I was saying we've to evolve a living economy. So the metta of economy, like the science of metta, the economy of metta we must do. We've done a lot in Navdanya. 2 Indias, but I'll give you 2 more examples. We are growing banana all over. You grow banana also in Cambodia. There's one scientist in Australia who says, I will genetically engineer the banana to increase the iron content. They'll come and make the farmers convinced, cut down your native bananas, the delicious varieties you have here in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, hundreds of varieties. They'll say, cut it down because we'll increase the iron in your banana. How much is the iron in the banana? 0.44 milligram. They increase it 4-fold, it'll be 2 milligrams. The turmeric in our food, the peppers, the amaranth leaves we have 1000% more. So we are made to feel stupid about our own knowledge, about what is around us, and our capacity to produce. And I'm very sad to say that, sadly, so much of science and so much of economics has become a trick on society to exploit society in the name of growth and exploit a farmer in the name of producing more. And that's why we do the truthful analysis. There's also a BT eggplant. They wanted to put a toxin into this. We stopped it in India. But all of this is unnecessary because the earth has given us so much diversity to meet every need. As the chair and moderator mentioned, that there's no plant that doesn't heal. We used to eat 8,000 species of plants. 8,000. We now grow 8. And in those 8, the seed is owned by the same company, the chemical is sold by the same company, the trade is done by the same set of companies, and we get poorer and we get hungrier. Half of India's children today are starving. Half of India. But even in the US, even in England, they've called a health emergency for hunger because an economics of greed does not feed people. An economics of metta will feed people.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Vandana Shiva. I'm an environmentalist in Sri Lanka, and I need a very short answer from you because I'll be there for tomorrow talk from you. And today this forum here are full of loving kindness, but tomorrow I believe it's a different forum there. So I really believe that most of the Sri Lankans who are here are having at least a chili plant in their garden. So we are at a very crucial situation that we are going to lose the rights for the seeds, as you said and as you are aware. How could we really plant the seed of Metta among these company people, Monsanto and CIC, who are trying to force on us to use their seeds. And I really need to know where to begin planting the seed of Metta to win this battle with the multinational companies. Thank you.
Well, both because of my training in quantum physics, as well as my life's training through wanting to protect life on Earth, I have learned that those who are possessed with greed, you can talk any amount to them, they don't listen. So what we have to do is spread the circle of freedom and kindness so much that their space of destruction shrinks. I would really plead with all the monks here to turn their monasteries into sanctuaries for all beings. Start a seed bank in every garden, because Sri Lanka is an island of gardens. And Sarvodaya can do this because of the reach that Sarvodaya has, that Vinaya just shared with us. I would love to see little placards spread by Sarvodaya. Every garden, every school, a Metta garden for seed freedom. And then you can have 2 or 3 points that this garden is where seeds will be free, old seeds will be saved, they will sow the seeds of peace and prosperity and abundance and non-anxiety for the farmer who's not getting of a freedom from debt. So this has to be the movement. But Metta gardens with real seeds and real care and real love and real compassion for real beings.
Thank you. With that last question, because we have to close at 11:45, may I please have the honor of inviting Dr. A.T. Ariyaratne on the stage. With the thought of having Metta Gardens, the one who started creating mindful, loving, kind villages, we are trying to present some tokens of appreciation to these speakers who have come all the way here on their own cost. Let's see if there's time. You have the cards. As Dr. Ariyaratne arrives here, may I please invite Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith to receive this token of appreciation. You are bringing them. Next, may I invite Dr. Sunita Krishnan to, there's a long road, so by the time you come, you can help. No true spiritual life is possible without a generous heart. Generosity allies itself with an inner feeling of abundance, the feeling that we have enough to share. The Buddha, with appreciation, gratitude, and sincere thanks to Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith for gracing Metta Convention 2014 on healing of hearts and contributing to the session of Science of Metta from Sarvodaya. Shall I read it? Yeah. Let me read the citation. No true spiritual life is possible without a generous heart. Generosity allies itself with an inner feeling of abundance, the feeling that we have enough to share. With appreciation, gratitude, and sincere thanks to Dr. Sunita Krishnan from Sarvodaya. with the same saying that no true spiritual life is possible without a generous heart. Generosity allies itself with an inner feeling of abundance, the feeling that we have enough to share. With appreciation, gratitude, and sincere thanks to Mr. Sumana Ratnayaka. No true spiritual life is possible without a generous heart. Generosity allies itself with an inner feeling of abundance, the feeling that we have enough to share. With appreciation, gratitude, and sincere thanks, we present this token of appreciation to Dr. Vandana Shiva. I know many questions have to be answered, but the time has to be observed. Once again, it was great having you here, and it was a fantastic audience. Thank you so much. Much metta to you. Thank you, sir.
Before we wind up this session, I actually want to say a few words of our wonderful moderator up on stage, Mr. Deepal Suryarachi, who happens to be one of the best marketeers in Sri Lanka, and also the former managing director of Eagle Insurance, and the board director of Sampath Bank, and many other large corporates in Sri Lanka, and a profound author. And he currently serves as the Commissioner of Inventors Commission of Sri Lanka. So we had to cut short the session, Q&A session, because we are pressed for time. So we hope that you will be able to catch some of the speakers outside during the break. So before we break for lunch, I most respectfully invite Venerable Vimala Thero to conduct a few minutes of metta meditation before we wind down for the morning.
So let's close our eyes and bring the attention to the breathing. Slowly move away your attention from everything and everybody. Tune in to the breath and feel the sensation of the movement of your breath. Feel the warmth of your breath. And breathe in and follow the breath all the way to the center of your heart. Notice the gentle rhythmic rising and falling of your chest. As you breathe out, empty the lungs and let your chest muscles relax. Let your chest muscles relax and breathe out any stress, any tension, any pressure in your chest. And take few mindful breaths and breathing in peacefully and mindfully. Let's reflect on the words of Venerable Mahinda this morning. And remind ourselves to be kind, loving, and caring people caring human beings. Breathing in mindfully and peacefully. Let's reflect on the message of Ray and Michael. We all are connected, interrelated, interdependent. We need to manage sitting practice and balance the sitting practice of Metta with actual actions to change the society. And breathing in mindfully and peacefully, we reflect on the message of Doctor and remind ourselves to be kind and gentle towards nature and be respectful the way we handle the resources that help and support our survival. So as you breathe in peacefully and mindfully, let's take a moment to radiate Metta. May there be peace, love, and harmony in my life. May there be peace, love, and harmony in this world. May all living beings be free from pain and suffering. And one more time, let's think and get into the feelings and radiate Metta to the world, to ourselves. May there be peace, love, and harmony in my life. May there be peace, love, and harmony in this world. May all living beings be free from pain and suffering. You can mindfully open your eyes and enjoy the lunch.